Welcome everybody to Pagan World TV, where we're going to do another show. We're going to do another testing of our system as we're starting to do it better and better. Here we go. Okay, we got that set. Yay! Now we need to find one more thing. Thank you for being patient with me, folks. This is a great new adventure. There we go. This is going to be Paladin Talk with Sir Hubbard and Sir Alfred Willowhawk. And this was less than optimal conditions, but we are still doing it. We're so happy to have it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Paladin Talk. I'm your host, Sir Ed Hubbard, and I am with Sir Alfred Willowhawk. And we are members of the Order of Paladins, a order of interfaith warriors who are simply seeking to make a world a better place. Hi, Alfred. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Ed. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited about seeing where all this goes, and it's a great day here in West Plains, Missouri, actually.
And to get started, if you want to find out more about the Order of Paladins, go to orderofpaladins.org, and you can find out more about it. And really quick, just give you a quick rundown. It is the Order of Paladins. It is under the 501c3 jurisdiction of the Corellian tradition, but it is also an organization that is independent and has many members from many different faiths across the Wiccan pagan world. And what we do is we seek to make the world better. And that's why we're talking to Alfred today, Sir Alfred. SER. Let me go ahead and give you one more piece of information. We use the term SER, S-E-R, because it is non-binary, non-normative communication. So everybody in the Paladins are called Sir. SER, so we can go ahead and, it is open to everybody. And we have everybody across the board. We have about 40 members currently, and we're growing. But the most important thing is we do actual real activities, and we can talk later about some of the things we've done. But we're going to get talking to Sir Alfred here about White Raven Church and its retreat center and how it's going to play in the future of our organization. Well, why don't you describe yourself first, Alfred, so people can know who you are.
Okay. So as you have stated, I'm Sir Alfred of House White Raven of the Paladin organization. White Raven Church and Tradition is a progressive, inclusive church and retreat center in the middle of the country, West Plains, Missouri. Personally, I am a third-degree traditional priest, as well as ordained through the Assembly of God and a few other organizations. I have a master's in psychology, currently work on a PhD in psychology, which will be done hopefully in the next 6 months or so. We operate our organization, as I said, as an inclusive, progressive group. We have individuals of many different faiths. It's one of the things that was so exciting to us about joining the Paladins early on, is that as a organization that does not focus on any particular gender or particular faith, that we felt that the Paladins and us were actually working symbiotically, and hence why we created House White Raven. You can get more information on the White Raven Retreat Center by going to whiteravenretreat.com, and that also the White Raven Church, you can hit both from here, which is whiteraven.org, WITERAYVN.org. I've been in the pagan world for over 25 years myself. Our organization has been through many iterations. It has grown to such a point to where in 2019 we became our own independent 501c3, working with the Corellian nativist movement and other churches as well. So I hope that answers your question, Ed.
I think it does a great job of answering it. And it is interesting that people don't understand that there is a need for cooperation. So let me put my microphone more correctly. So let us talk about one thing. So one of the things I think people don't understand, the Paladins are not looking for sustainability. We're looking for resilience. And for me, resilience means to be able to deal with whatever comes your way.
Mm-hmm.
How about yourself?
I agree. Resilience is a really good word because sustainability, whenever you think of sustainability at this point, you think about the zombie apocalypse or some Armageddon kind of scenario. And when you think about resilience, it means that the ability to handle changes, whether they are dramatic changes or not so dramatic changes, and to be able to live in a way that is conducive to your, not only your survival, but to your ability to thrive in whatever environment that you're in. And there are a lot of things that are part of that, which I'll bet we're going to get to. So.
Absolutely. But I do think that people understand sustainability, the idea of being off the grid and sustainable, isn't really possible. And there's a lot of reasons not to be there. You're talking about medications. We're talking about, we love the things like even talking to you today. We utilize technology and we want to create it more resilient and more useful. And I think one of the big things is that when you came in, it was three gates mystery school.
3 Gates Gathering and Mystery School. Yep.
Right. And you were one of the first people we did the Corellian tradition, that the Paladins did something very important, and it worked with you, and you worked with Pagan Unity Festival at the time. You combined these two festivals, and we were able to host that online because we have a lot of IT people in the Paladins. And that was one of the first things. So that was a sign of not sustainability, but resilience. We were not going to let that go down. And while it was not what everybody wanted, it was one of the first festivals out of the run, and was able to save that. Now so that next year, when you go back to a more live event, you have this sort of history, and we've done it for a little bit, and you've been doing it on your own. But that's a moment of resilience. So that's what we're talking about. We're not looking at, COVID may have been difficult, but it taught us that we didn't have to be sustainable, but we needed to be able to work with each other.
Correct. And it was really one of the wonderful things. And of course, last year when you were here for 3 Gates Gathering, we did it in a hybrid fashion, and that there were Paladins that assisted us and to make that happen, because we needed more hands. And we had people from all over the country, all over the North America, as you know, is that we had individuals as far away as Vancouver, Canada, who were part of the IT infrastructure that ran that festival. We had some Corellian individuals that had come, some other Paladins.
And you had David, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
And Rowan.
And we had Willow, and of course we had Sir Chad from here within the Paladins to work with us, and we created a resilient festival. There weren't a huge number of people here locally, but we had well over 200 people that clued in all during that festival. But without resilience, we can't operate. I think that's really an important distinction. It's one of the things I love about the Paladins, is that we are developing resilience, which basically, if you think about it, it means being able to handle a situation effectively to the highest level of competence of the individuals involved.
So I do have a belief, and that is one of the things that I think we've incorporated, is that everybody says that when crisis strikes, everybody rises to their highest self. I disagree. So when you come into crisis, you come to the highest degree for which you are trained for.
Yes.
And so that's what so if you want to become a part of the Paladins, you can go to orderofpaladins.org. We have a group there on Pagan World, and you can join, and you can go through any number of groups. There are a number of people who are involved. And yes, and everybody says, oh, but isn't that like Dudley Do, right? And isn't that D&D? But no. And sometimes I'll explain where the Paladins come from. It's been my lifelong quest. And I'm so grateful for so many people there. And now we're going to start to talk about getting the next step. And why don't you talk a little bit about White Raven Retreat and the church and the land? Why don't you give us some description of that?
Okay, so if you look at the picture behind us, that's actually a picture from a couple of years ago. We're on a 5-acre property in southern Missouri. When we got here, it was one of those rent-to-own properties with an absentee landlord, so you can imagine what kind of shape it was in. There was garbage everywhere. There were all kinds of things that we had to deal with. But we cleaned up the property, and the neighbors, where they would watch us out there with our very old equipment, trying to mow lawns and cutting down with hand scythes and things like that. And one afternoon, after working on it the first summer, an individual shows up on a tractor with a towing behind him, towing a bush hog. And he was like, hi, we seen what you've been doing. We're going to come bush hog your property. And we're like, well, how much are you going to charge us? And they were like, no, we're not going to charge you because you're a good neighbor. So, we established early on that even though we are pagans, that we are just like they are in terms of our care for the land. So this 5-acre property now, as you can see behind us, that is actually our herbal labyrinth. There are a lot of flowers in that labyrinth. We have a sacred circle. We have shrines to different deific manifestations. We have things that are involved with Celtic and Greek and also African deities. And the reason is because we are, again, a inclusive progressive church. So people follow their own path. We give them the space. The other thing that we have here is that we have gardens where we grow a lot of our own food organically. We have this year, we're doing no-till gardens because it is more useful and friendly to the land. And we've had quite a bit of success on that. About 80% of the vegetables that we eat during season come from the land. We also have over 30 chickens that we have eggs, and we actually sell some of those eggs in the public at $2.50 a dozen for our free range eggs. And all of these things operate in a way that is resilient. We have 27 beds on property right now, as well as 40 campsites that people can come and camp and spend time, work the land, or learn from us. We teach a lot of these techniques. We have all of our herb gardens, and that we help individuals to understand the way that the herbs work. There's a good associate of mine who makes a really good point, is that if you're going to use, let's just talk about kitchen herbs. If you're going to use oregano and garlic and sage and thyme and rosemary and all of these different herbs, instead of buying them at the store, why don't you grow them in your own pots? I mean, it's easy to do. And that's some of the things that we teach. We teach you how to grow and how to utilize the things that are available, as well as currently we work with the Missouri Department of Conservation. We have over 30 fruit trees, most of which came from them. There are fruit trees of indigenous fruits that have been lost in Missouri, as well as some others, and they grow like crazy. A funny story is that we had gotten a single elderberry bush from them 6 years ago, and now we're giving out shoots of elderberries all over the place because the elderberries are native to here, even though they hadn't been seen in many years. And so that we are returning that to the land where they're used to. And now we make elderberry syrup, elderberry wine, elderberry in pies, elderberry. And that's another thing about resilience, is that we have to understand that you utilize what is available. Right. We, in our sacred fire pit, we have a large sacred circle, which holds over 100 people. And we have a sacred fire pit that can do about 70 people. But we take down the diseased trees. We take down trees that are interfering with other trees. Last year, we realized that the pine tree that we had in one area was so close and had grown so big, it was interfering with the two, what we have figured out to be, according to conservation, close to 70-year-old apple trees that are on the property, because at one time there was an apple orchard, a small apple orchard here, and they were interfering with those two trees' ability to function. And so we were talking to the city and the local co-op, who was doing some branch clearing from some of the electric wires, and they were like, "Hey, you want us to come and trim that tree for you?" And they came over, trimmed the tree for us. Then we chopped up the wood and we used the wood in our wood burning stove. All of these things are part of what the White Raven Retreat Center does. The other part of the White Raven Retreat Center is that it's a place where people can go for spiritual renewal. That people will come and they'll spend a weekend or a week, and they may join us for kirtan. We do some kirtan. We do some meditation techniques. We teach mindfulness meditation. We also teach different healing modalities for people. And we train people to do their own research in terms of medicinal herbs, because of course we don't recommend or create for people because that's illegal in the United States. However, we can show people what they can do themselves. All of these things are to assist us in being resilient and to be able to function when things get difficult. During COVID, a lot of individuals were in difficulty here in West Plains, especially during the major part of the lockdown when even the grocery stores were locked down. But we have a relationship with the local Amish community where we buy bulk supplies of flour, beans, so on and so forth. And what we ended up doing is, again, resiliently, right, using that term, using the tools we have through Facebook and other electronic medium, we were part of a group of individuals that were trying to see what people had to share. And we said, well, we've got eggs, we've got flour, we've got yeast, we have beans. And we ended up meeting people in parking lots during the lockdown and giving them things. Some of those people, unfortunately, didn't know how to make bread and didn't know how to cook certain things. So we even gave them recipes and how to do it. We made small videos for people to be able to see how we cook chicken. Yeah, believe it or not, some people didn't know how to cook chicken. To them, it was going to Walmart and picking up a fried chicken. But how do I fry chicken? How do I do these things? And so that these are all of the things that we work. And the beautiful thing about that is that now in the community here, outside of the main town, there are 20 or so families that barter with each other. Even now, that if you have, there's a central place that we go to, we'll bring clothes or fruit, another person brings firewood, another person brings other things, and it's actually at a convenience store. But outside of the convenience store, they erected an enclosure that we all use, that we drop things off that other people can use. And if you can't get there, there is one other location here. We get phone calls from people saying, hey, I have an extra 2 cases of green beans, can we put them in your storage area? And so we make more room and we add that, and then we give those things out to people. So these are some of the things that we're doing here in White Raven, and also under House White Raven within the Paladins. It's part of our function of being a place of resilience, training, and also of action for individuals, whether you're a Paladin or not.
And that makes a lot of sense. So I thank you for sharing that. And we're going to get right into what I think is going to be the most exciting part. So House White Raven, and we have a number of houses in the Paladins, has agreed to become the vault and storage for the Paladins for our seed project. I'll get more into that in a minute. But let's talk about your spacing. So we're not talking about a place right up against the city. You're really out there in the countryside. You're like the edge of civilization, and your internet's so good now.
Yeah. And it's actually good because and I will tell you, and I'd like the listeners to really understand this. We are 20 miles outside of town. We're 2 miles off the Arkansas border in the foothills of the Ozarks. So as Ed says, out in the middle of the boonies, yeah, we're in the middle of the boonies.
The edge of civilization, right? Like really.
Yeah, yeah, literally. Yeah, literally.
And that's very important for what we're about to do,
yes.
Which makes it a perfect place. So a part of this broadcast, and the Paladins know this, and now more people, if you want to become a Paladin, orderofpaladins.org. You can join us. And it's not an organization that is religious per se, though we are a Gaius organization, meaning we love Mother Earth. If you want to be a Gaius, meaning you are a member of persons who believe in Mother Earth, the Paladins are for you. If you don't think of Gaia as a living organic being who works with us, terrific. We love you, but we are resilient and we're going to continue to deal with the idea of Gaiaism. And one of the things we've committed ourselves to really fast is seed saving. Now, I've been talking about seed saving for a long time, and I really truly believe, I'm telling you this right now, I've been involved with this. I've raised earthworms at an industrial level. I've been involved with the sort of the permaculture. People know me more as Ed the Pagan or more as Sir Ed as for my religious aspect, but actually I'm deeply involved with the permaculture situation and deep urban. I mean, I'm not, with the Parliament of World Religion is going to meet in at the McCormick Center. I had a farm three blocks away, raising earthworms, and I'm hoping to get that back there. But most importantly, White Raven Retreat Center, along with the church, along with the Paladins, we're going to form a vault, a seed vault. And so what is the difference between a seed vault and a seed bank and a seed swap? So a seed swap is where we swap seeds. And we're going to do that at the Parliament of World Religions. And we have one of the great paladins, Paladin Commander Mark Brown. My God, if you have not looked up Garlic Gateway Farms, you need to do so. I mean, when we love going to his seed swap in the early year. We do. And he has 200 types of tomatoes.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And he is a member of our system and been part of it. And now he's agreed to begin helping us with the vault. So we have a seed vault. And what that means is that we're going to both save seed for the short term and the long term. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, you've been at it for a while. You see the picture behind you. You're going to be a big supplier of of seeds.
Yeah. So, the Paladins have decided that they're going to use our property for one of the seed vaults. And that seed vault, now, when we say seed vault, so Commander Mark, he deals with the seed swap and the short term and long term and separating what seeds are good for what seeds are good for this, the different heirlooms and so on and so forth, how they taste, how they function, how do you use them. What we're doing, and we do the same thing here, as we're only about 4 hours from him south, because he's in St. Louis and we're down here. But here at House White Raven, and as a major in the Paladin organization, we are going to build an actual building. Now, part of this building will be the seed vault. And what that means is that it will be temperature controlled. It will be encased and divided into short-term seed usage, long-term seed usage, and the turning and the care of those seeds for the long term as they are needed. And also within that, we're also going to have camping equipment, and we're also going to have other foodstuffs, flour, beans, yeast, all of these different structures all of these different things that are necessary in order for us to be able to have them for other individuals to utilize when they need them. And that structure is going to actually be built here on the property. It's already been marked off. We know where we're going to put it. Now, the property itself is right off the road, so that it's fairly easy on the tarmac to get to it, even though we are in the country. However, the vault itself needs to be built. And in that vault, as I said, it will have all the different seeds. It'll also have flour. It'll also have that we will turn as it's necessary, obviously flour, yeast, beans, so on and so forth, in enclosed containers. We actually do have a way to get gasoline, and that's from courtesy of our local Amish individuals who actually use gasoline for tractors and other small engines. We have a way to get that is close enough, because we don't want to store that on our own property. But also the camping equipment, batteries, medical equipment for first aid, as well as having instructions on how to use, how to plant, how to make it in such a way that you as an individual, if in a group of individuals during any kind of situation come down to our site, which though it's out in the middle of the country, in the middle of the nowhere, as they say, as General Ed had said, it's also that it's centrally located, and so that it's fairly easy to get to at the time. And of course, building that structure takes time, it takes effort, and it takes funding.
And absolutely, and we're going to continue that process. Now, it's very interesting. We're talking about resilience and that sort of thing. And you are far away, so okay, so let's take an extreme example. We're in the middle of a real war with a nuclear power.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not play pretend games. Russia is a nuclear power.
Mm-hmm.
We're in engagement with the Chinese, who are a nuclear power.
Mm-hmm.
And these two elements could probably do it. You're far enough out of that ring, right?
Yes.
Am I right? You're out of that far enough ring. I mean, I'm not trying to say that is. So what makes us not preppers? So that's really the question. Everybody goes, well, you're out of the ring of the nuclear weapons. And everybody talks about the nuclear weapons. Why are we not preppers? And we're looking at something different.
So, preppers are prepping for apocalyptic scenarios. They're also involved, and it's a different mindset, really. Mm-hmm. We are individuals that we will work with everything that we have. We're not talking about going off the grid and only living on, living on roots and herbs and what we can shoot outside in front of our property. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is that as resilience is taking everything that is available and being able to use it effectively for our own safety and for the care and feeding of those around us. So there's really, it's a mindset difference, right? It really is a mindset difference. And, you see here, I'm sitting here, I might be wearing a vest, but it's not, I'm not wearing camouflage. I don't have a flowing beard, and I don't have a bunch of guns sitting behind me. Even if I turned off the pretty picture behind me, all you see is a wall of my office. So that's really part of the difference between us and being preppers. And it's not that we're storing food for 100 years. We're storing food that is utilized for what we can. The difference, though, that where we are the same is our seed vault. The seed vault is an enclosed, it will be sealed, and it'll be built in such a way that it can be used for, many years. That some of those seeds can be stored for 25 years and it wouldn't matter, and you can germinate them later. There are other things that can only be stored for a couple of years, and we're going to probably plant them to get more seeds to put in the vault. Yeah.
And the Paladins have set up a network of people. We're going to grow seeds in Jacksonville. We're going to have seed banks. Mm-hmm. If you want to become a seed banker, find out more.
Yep.
So the vault represents our total wealth. Seed banks represent everything else. And seed swaps represents our distribution. And our Paladins are going to go through that entire process. Mm-hmm. I think people don't understand. So COVID showed us that really fast. We had to act fast. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to act fast. If there is this sort of idea of an Armageddon nuclear war, we want to be as prepared as we can for it, but we can't prepare for that. That is such a singularity item that was going to change civilization so much. But we are going through climate change, and we are going to see things. And it sounds crazy to people, but we're looking at, and one of the things the Paladins talk about is that, we're looking at generational wealth.
Yes.
And guess what? As the extinction events continue, DNA and seeds and all of that are going to become more and more rare. We're seeing them all died out. So they're talking about foodstuffs. Well, we're not going to just have foodstuffs in our home. We're going to have trees. We're going to have other plants that we need for the entire ecosystem.
Right.
The idea of the vault is that we will be able to regenerate, not just be resilient, but regenerate our own cultures. And so that makes us different than preppers. We're not looking at, surviving nuclear Armageddon. We hope it never happens. But we have seen disasters of all kinds. Mm-hmm. When people talk about camping equipment, did you know camping equipment and emergency equipment are almost the same?
Almost identical. And that's why I call it camping equipment, because that means that people understand it. But it is emergency equipment. We're talking about large scale shelters, and we also have we have cabins on site. Some, we are preparing to put some of those cabins on solar, not because the grid's going to go down, but it might go down. I mean, there are times that I have to use a generator out here. So why shouldn't I also have solar that's also connected to the grid, which is what's available here in Missouri? So that we're really setting up a way that if something happens for a group of individuals or a part of the country around a major city, and then you can come down to White Raven, and if that's the closest one, or Jacksonville, wherever you are, and that you can begin again, or you can survive, but not just survive, but thrive. And Ed, I really appreciate that you mentioned on the trees. That's one of the reasons I mentioned earlier that we have a lot of trees that we got from the Missouri Conservation, and we've planted those trees so that we can have those fruits, persimmons, hickory. There are certain things that we're just missing because of overusage of the land. And so we're helping to return the land to a more natural, resilient state. A lot of the things that were runoff in our particular community, we have certain trees that we planted in certain areas on our property to assist in erosion control because they were interfering with the road. But the conservation department were the one that said, hey, would you do us a favor and plant these trees over here that we're giving you? We'll give you 25 of these if you plant 8 of them here. And I was like, well, yeah, of course we'll plant 8 of them there. When the electric company takes down poles that have gotten ruined, they cut those poles up and bring them to us so that we can use them for footers for other properties. We even have a whole pile of mulch that we got specifically from the city. So I just want people to really understand that as Paladins, as a Paladin organization, we work with our local community, our government community. That's what we're not raising a flag against the government. We're not doing that. What we're doing is that we're working within the system, and we're open for everyone to use. And that vault is really our next biggest project, as General Ed said.
Absolutely. And it's been something we've been working a long time for, but now it is actually consolidated. And to give you an example, we're going to be at the Parliament of World Religions, August 14th through the 18th. And one of 2023, that's very important. We will have a Three Gates Festival, mystery school before that.
Yes, we will.
And probably some Paladin training cells. So that's going to give us a lot more capability. But this is what shows resilience. We're not talking anti-government. A lot of people talk about preppers. They're like, oh, they're anti-government. We're not anti-government. We're very mainstream. People always talk about it's like, oh, you don't hate the government. He says you can't hate the government. We're all the government, right? We're all choosing that. I mean, and maybe it's hard and it's difficult, and you've been very much involved with it. So you represent a space that is like really protected, even in the worst case scenario. But more importantly, you're saying the vault for the long term for climate change and generational wealth. At the same time, helping the communities in a very protect thing. Now, this is not a zero cost game. So people, and you can go to whiteraven.org and make a donation to this project. And there's actually going to be buttons around here, and we'll figure out ways to begin that process. But it's WITERAVN.
RAYVN. Yeah, let's try that again, Ed, please.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay, it's WITERAYVN.org, and on the bottom of that first page there, you'll see a donation button. And when you do it, there's a place for a message, and you just can say that it's for the vault or say whatever it's for.
But it's not a zero-sum game, right? It's not free.
No, it's not. Not at all.
And you've already done, for people who want to see it, we've done a spreadsheet. I think we're going to do a Kickstarter campaign or an Indiegogo campaign for this as well pretty soon. But what are we expecting? I mean, when people talk about this, what do you expect this costs?
Well, just the building for the vault alone is over $16,000, and that's a 20 by 30 structure. And about and it will take that level of structure in order to build. Just the structure is over $16,000 based upon numbers that we've looked at. And of course, those numbers are about 3 months old. And with the different costs, as costs go up, it goes up as well. But that includes the building of the building, the securing of the building. We're currently, it would be great also if we have a mortgage that we would love to pay off, and that's a different story. But even the equipment that we want to put in, not just the seed vault, when we're talking about all of the different material, the emergency supplies, the medical supplies, all of that, that's close to another $9,000. And all of it. Now, yes, we do get some donations in terms of materials, particularly medical materials. And we have also been very lucky that we have a few of the larger emergency type structures. But all in all, in order to build the vault, it's going to take us $16,000 for the building and another $4,000 to create the hermetically sealed structure within. So you can add the numbers up yourself and see how that goes. And of course, as Ed said, as Paladins, we're looking to bring that cost. And it isn't just for us, right? It's that's one of the reasons I talk so much about what we're already doing in our local community and how we're helping. As well as this particular interview as such, but we also do interviews on preparedness and that you can find those on Magic TV, and there'll be another place to find them soon as well. So
orderpaladins.org.
Yes, there it is, paladins.org. Yeah, and also on Pagan Worlds, correct, Ed?
Well, that's where orderpaladins.org goes to.
Oh, there.
So yeah, absolutely. We're about to create something. So overall, the next 18 months, as we head to the Parliament, we're going to actually bring something. We're going to tell the world, and then we're talking. People ask me, who do you know? I know Dr. Shiva Viandana. We know Mark Brown, who's if you don't know Mark Brown, look him up. He's been a big member organization. We have lots of people around who are ready for this. Starhawk and such. So this is an idea that we're going to see more develop over the next 18 months. None of this happens quickly unless crisis modes lead and we're able to react. That's one of the things we are, but we believe in this idea ultimately of resilience, long-term strategy. So Sir Alfred and I have a concept in mind, is that we plant trees that we will never see the shade of. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're at this point where we want to see the next generations do well. And I'm really very grateful for that. So we're talking $20,000 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll probably do earthworms. We'll do other things. So the first step is $20,000, and we'll see ways of doing it. But at the same time, we'll be able to provide, let's talk about the benefit of that. So not only will we have a long-term storage facility, but for the communities as large, people will be able to make requests of seeds starting next spring with their local communities, and we can start sharing those things. And that's really important because that's not resilience, that's regenerative.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the last thing. Let us talk about is the idea that the vault is not a resilient program, though it does represent that. But it is also a regenerative program in case of, let's say, the worst case scenarios, desertification, which we're seeing a problem, the loss of water, we're seeing problems of. We're seeing a lot of different crises that are coming out of climate change, heat and everything else. The idea of the vault is to be regenerative. And on your property, you also have greenhouses.
Yes, we do.
To deal with that. So can you talk a little bit about the idea of White Raven being not just a resilient organization, but over the long term, hopefully a regenerative one, which you've already represented. You talked about the elderberry plants.
So when we want to be regenerative, as Sir General Ed had said, is that you're providing for future generations. So the trees that I plant now, the elderberry trees, the peach trees, the walnut trees, although probably not planting any more walnut trees, they grow like weeds out here. But those kinds of things that it's going to be 3-4 years before those trees actually produce anything. But we have the ability, through our greenhouses, through our no-till gardens and our regular till gardens, that we have the ability to grow and dry herbs and dry different things that are necessary in order to be able to distribute them going forward. But in terms of regeneration, we also are here to teach people how to operate within their own property. I mean, as a perfect example, because of the changes in the climate, there are a set of zones in the country for different things to get planted in different zones at different times. And our area actually has slipped to another zone. We're on the top of that other zone, but we're no longer in zone 6A. We're in zone 6B, which is very similar to zone 7. So some of the things that we are now able to grow, we weren't able to grow before. But as the climate changes, as things develop, we need to be able to understand how to read those things, how to plant at the appropriate time, all of those things through us here at whiteraven.org, and obviously House White Raven of the Paladins, paladin.org. We are here to train and to facilitate, and also to encourage future generations and individuals now to do things so that you can have your own structures. We don't want that this should be the only property in the entire country that does this. It would be nonsensical. There are plenty of people that can do the same thing, and we want to help you to be able to do those things. And we want to have this not as a showcase, like a franchise.
Showcase.
Well, okay, a showcase, but not like a franchise showcase. Although you'll probably disagree with me, Ed. But as a showcase that you can come here, you can spend a month here, learn how we've done these things, and take it back with you and develop it somewhere else.
No, I agree with that.
So that this way, then we are regenerating the planet, but we're also providing for our future generations, because it doesn't matter. We are not going to be on this planet forever. I mean, I'm not 20 years old anymore anyway. Although sometimes I'd like to be, although other times not, probably. But what we want to be able to do is to teach so that those individuals that aren't even alive yet, that they will be able to have a fruitful life that is itself regenerative, which regenerates the planet, which goes with all of us, because as Ed had said earlier, we are Gaius, and that we are here to replenish and to work with the planet as the planet chooses to be worked, and to grow that into a worldwide structure, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about at Parliament next year. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's an important thing. So whiteraven.org, WITERAY. Am I getting that right?
Yep, you got it right. WITERAYVN.org.
And we'll start talking more about this training in this program.
Mm-hmm.
But today we're announcing the idea that we're going to begin a vault. And people go, well, I've heard that before. Yes, Iceland has a vault for saving the things. And I think that in the United States, we couldn't ask better for a place at West Plains, Missouri, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than to be in the place that can most secure it. And of course, camping equipment. We have Heartland coming up. We have Three Gates next year. We have a lot of festivals where we're going to do things. We're going to talk about the camping ministry later. But right now, today, we're starting the process. And if you want to know how to send your seeds to it, text us. Write
Yeah,
us.
text us, write us. You can actually text me or text the Paladins. I'm sure. Do we have a general number that we can text to?
Orderofpaladins.org. That's going to be our new spot. We're beginning that sort of
Mhm.
thing. And we're beginning this major project that is going to basically state we want to preserve nature.
Right.
And it's not just going to be foodstuffs. It's going to be all sorts of things. So
Mm-mm.
if you want to save your favorite tree, send us some of your seeds of your favorite tree. We do believe very deeply there is a consciousness underneath all of this
Yes.
that we're acting to. So I will give you the last word. Anything else you want to say about today?
That's always a hard question, but there's so many things that you can say. But I think overall, I really just want people to understand that we are here to serve you, and that this is a global community project that we are dealing with. We've been doing this for years on small scale, and that now we're getting ready to do it on a large scale, and that we would love to have you be part of that with us, and to be able to join us in preserving our way of life. Although that's probably a bad way of saying it, but it's a good way, I think, way of life, preserving our way of life, and to further the global consensus driven balance and harmony with nature and with us, that we don't have to be adversaries. We can all work together in consensus as long as we have a common goal. And I think that that's really what we're trying to do here.
I think you've really done that well. So again, I'm going to give it out one more time. WITERAYVN.org.
Yay.
If you want to make a donation, if you want to find out just more about it and how to build a seed vault, a seed bank, a seed swap, check us out and we will help you do that. This is going to be a terrific moment in history where we're going to try to preserve and expand on Gaia. We thank you all. Thank you, Sir Alfred, for sharing this with us and being at the center of this amazing project. We'll talk more about it, but you've just listened to the first Paladin Talk, number 1 of online, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sir Ed, for doing this. And I'm excited to see where we're going from here. This is awesome. I love being the seed, man. That rocks.
And that's what we are. So blessed be everyone. And until next time, make your world better. Period. That's all we ask you to do. Make your world better one step at a time. Blessed be.
And you've been listening to Pagan World Broadcast, and this is we will be bringing you more as we begin to ramp up our